Nobody in construction wants to hear this, but if you're the one managing your own insurance paperwork, you're doing your company a disservice. Insurance certificates, renewals, tracking subcontractor compliance, that is not a job for the owner. That's a job for someone dedicated to it. I used to think I had to control every part of the business, including insurance, and I was wrong. It has cost me time I could have spent growing the company. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly how I delegate construction insurance to my virtual assistant. What's going on, everyone? My name is Joel Lipsky, construction business owner, advocate, and educator. I have spent the last 20 years in the construction industry, on the job site and in the trenches, building companies, leading teams, and learning lessons the only way it's earned in this industry, through experience. I'm here to share tips, tricks, and other hard lessons that I learned straight from the job site that allow me to run my construction company successfully. Not just how to build better projects, but how to run a better business. If you're a construction leader ready to operate with clarity instead of chaos, you are in the right place. Like, share, subscribe. Let's build something together. Let me take you back to when I worked for my father. Standard operating procedure at that time was that the project manager handled subcontractor insurance certificates, getting them, submitting them, getting them approved, and chasing down the ones that were missing or even expired. It was draining. There were weeks where I spent more time auditing insurance certificates than I did actually running the projects, chasing subcontractors for updated certificates, checking their coverage limits, and making sure additional insurance language was correct. And here's the thing. It wasn't just me. Every single project manager in my company had the exact same problem. This wasn't a me issue. This was an SOP issue. We had our most valuable people, the ones who should have been running projects, managing insurance certificates that had nothing to do with building. And that's when it hit me. Insurance management is not a construction skill. It's an administrative skill. And when you make your project managers do it, you're paying skilled labor rates for clerical work. You're pulling your best people off the thing they're actually good at, running projects and allowing them to do clerical work. So when I started running my construction company, I made a decision early on. Insurance management was never going to eat into my project manager's time ever again. I hired a full-time virtual assistant whose entire job was managing insurance for us and for every subcontractor we work with. She's been with Lipsky Construction now for over 7 years. She's one of the best hires we ever made early on. These are the 5 things that our insurance risk manager does for us as a virtual assistant. Task 1, auditing subcontractor insurance policies. The first thing is auditing the subcontractor insurance policies. This is more than just, did they send a certificate? Anyone can collect a piece of paper and stick it in a folder. The real work is knowing what you're looking at. She looks at the policy itself, the endorsements, the inclusions, and most importantly, the exclusions, because that's where companies get burnt. It's never the coverage you can see on the surface that hurts you. It's the exclusion buried on the page 4 that nobody read. The gap in coverage nobody caught until there was already a claim on the table. She is our first line of defense, exactly designed for that reason. She reviews every subcontractor policy against our actual requirements. She looks at the general liability limits, the umbrella limits, the workers' comp, the auto, if they're driving vehicles onto our job sites. She confirms Lipsky Construction is listed as an additional insured and that the policy language actually holds up. Not just a certificate that looks right at a glance, but one that's actually been checked line by line, endorsement by endorsement, exclusion by exclusion. Here's how seriously we take this. We do not allow any subcontractor to even provide us with a price estimate or even sit down with our estimating team until our insurance manager has pre-vetted them. And that might sound extreme, but think about it from a business standpoint. If we let a subcontractor get deep into pricing conversations, maybe even get penciled into a bid, and then find out their coverage doesn't meet our standards, we are wasting our estimating team's time and possibly built a number around a subcontractor who can't actually do the job. Worse, if that actually gets missed and it slips through, we are carrying that risk on a job before we ever caught the problem. Vetting insurance first means we're only spending time on subcontractors who can actually work with us, not chasing pricing from someone who's going to get disqualified down the line anyway. It's a heavy lift. It takes real attention to detail and real knowledge of what to look for. And it's not something you can do half focused in between running a job. And now it's fully delegated out, which means my project managers get to concentrate on what they're actually good at, running projects, instead of moonlighting as insurance managers on the side. Task 2, getting project-specific insurance certificates. This is different than actually getting the subcontractor's general policy on file. A lot of projects, especially the bigger ones, require certificates that name the specific project, the specific address, and sometimes the specific owner or the general contractor on that form. Our insurance manager handles that entire process start to finish. She requests the project-specific certificates directly from the subcontractor or their broker. She confirms it matches the job requirements exactly, not close exactly, because a certificate with the wrong project name or the wrong additional insured listed is fundamentally useless when a claim comes in. And she tracks that certificate before the subcontractor is ever allowed to mobilize on the job. No certificate, no access. Doesn't matter how long we've worked with that subcontractor. Doesn't matter how big the job is. Doesn't matter if that super is pushing to get them started because the schedule is tight. If the certificate isn't in hand and verified, they do not step foot on the job site. This used to be one of the most time-consuming parts of running a project because it's not something you set up once. Every new job means new requirements. Every new subcontractor on that job means a new round of paperwork and follow-up. Multiply that across every active project we have running at once, and you can see how it used to eat an entire day of a project manager's week. Now it just happens in the background, and I genuinely don't think about it until she tells me that it's handled. Task 3. Managing owner insurance certificates. Now, this is the part where Lipsky is in contract with the owner, and we need to provide our insurance certificates to that owner. But here's what makes this more complicated than most people realize. Every project is different. Every project has a different certificate holder, which is oftentimes the project owner. Every project has different architects and different funding sources involved, which oftentimes need to be listed as additional insureds. There is no template that works across every job. Our insurance risk manager squares all of that away for us every single project, figuring out exactly who needs to be listed, in what capacity, with what language, and gets it right every time. Once it's squared away, she sends it out to the owner directly through a Procore transmittal so that's documented, time-stamped, and delivered. No chasing emails. It's logged in the system where it belongs. She coordinates directly with our insurance broker on every piece of that. She keeps all the documentation current and organized, so it's never a scramble. And when a GM or a client or a project owner asks for proof of our coverage, which happens constantly, sometimes with a same-day deadline, we can produce it within minutes. Our insurance risk manager also maintains a master file, so we always know at any point in time exactly what's covered, what our limits are, and when anything is coming up for renewal. That sounds like a simple thing to do, but it's not. I've talked to plenty of contractors who have no single source of truth for their own coverage. It's scattered across email threads, a broker's file, maybe a folder on someone's desktop. When you need it fast, that scattered system falls apart. Ours doesn't, because one person owns it completely. Task 4, getting renewals. This is where most companies fall apart because renewals aren't a one-time task you check off a list. They're constant. Every subcontractor's policy expires on its own schedule. And if no one is tracking those dates proactively, you end up with the subcontractor working on your job site with a lapsed policy. And you don't find out until there's a claim and it's too late to do anything about it. Our insurance risk manager tracks every single expiration date across every active subcontractor and every one of our own policies on an ongoing basis. She starts the renewal process well before anything lapses. She's already following up with the broker or the subcontractor weeks ahead of the deadline, not scrambling after it's already expired. That's the difference between a system that protects your company and a system that leaves you exposed without you even knowing it. This works because this is the one thing our insurance risk manager does. She is not splitting her time across 5 different other responsibilities like a project manager would. She knows which brokers are slow to respond and need extra lead time built in. The level of detail only comes from someone who owns the process completely, day in and day out. So how does she work with the Lipsky team? And this is the part people ask me about the most. Simple, just like every other team member at Lipsky Construction. Phone calls, emails, team messages, whatever the situation calls for. There's no separate process for her because she's virtual. She's not treated as an outside vendor we occasionally check in on. She's treated as a full-time team member because that's exactly what she is. She is an amazing communicator. That's not a small thing in this industry. Half the battle is just getting people to respond, to follow up with, to close the loop. She does that better than most people I've had in my office. If a project manager needs an answer on a certificate status, she is on it. If I need a status update on one of our own coverage before a meeting, I get an answer in minutes, not by the end of the day. And here's the thing. Even though she's a virtual team member, we fully rely on her for all of this. There's no, well, she's remote, so we'll cut her some slack mentality. There's no lowering the bar. She gets held to the exact same standard as anyone walking into her office every day, and she meets it every single time. That's the part a lot of contractors don't expect when they hear virtual assistant. They picture someone who's hard to reach, slow to respond, disconnected from the team. That has not been our experience at all. She's as connected to how we operate as anyone else on our team. And she's proven over 7 years that virtual doesn't mean less reliable. If anything, because insurance is the only thing on her plate, she's more reliable than most. Here's the lesson. If your project managers, your estimators, or you, the owner, are the ones auditing policies, chasing project-specific certificates, managing your own coverage, tracking renewals, and juggling every insurance-related conversation on top of your actual job, you are burning your most expensive time on the lowest value task. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. It matters more than almost everything else in this business because one lab certificate on one job site can turn into a lawsuit that costs you everything you built. But critical doesn't mean it has to be done by your most skilled people. It means it has to be done by the right person, consistently, someone who owns it from start to finish and who can communicate like a real member of your team. That's exactly the kind of role a virtual assistant is built for. It doesn't require them to be on a job site. It doesn't require construction trade knowledge. It requires organization, follow-up, and attention to detail, and a full-time focus that no project manager juggling 5 other responsibilities can give. If you're still doing this yourself or putting your project managers to do it, ask yourself, what is that costing you? Not just in hours, in missed deadlines, in overlooked expirations, in projects that ran behind because your best people were buried in insurance paperwork instead of running the job. If you are looking for a dedicated insurance manager to add to your team, reach out to the team at Virtual Construction Assistance today.